Good morning and welcome to the Redemptorist community here in Mount St. Alphonsus in Limerick. My name is Gerry Moloney. What would you do if you weren't afraid? That's a question that the Chief Operating Officer of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, likes to ask people at the end of interviews. What would you do if you weren't afraid? It's a good question, and it has particular relevance now as we cope with this terrible coronavirus pandemic. But it's relevant also in the context of Easter and the situation that the disciples found themselves in immediately after the passion and death of Jesus. They were afraid. Their fear prevented them from venturing out and about. They locked themselves in a room, afraid that they would also end up like Jesus, that they would be arrested and thrown in prison or even put to death because they were part of his group. They were paralyzed by fear. Fear is a running theme throughout the Bible, and in fact, words like "do not be afraid" or "fear not" occur at least in excess of 300 times throughout the Bible. God says to God's people, "Do not be afraid. Fear not. Trust in me." It's the message of Jesus as well to his followers. What he said to his disciples after his post-resurrection appearances. What he says to us now, "Do not be afraid. Fear not." It is what the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, said during his first inaugural address in 1933. America was in the middle of the Great Recession. Things looked very bleak. People were hungry. And Franklin Roosevelt knew that the first thing he needed to do was to offer people hope, to instill some confidence in them, to let them let go of their fear. And so he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. And he led from the front, leading them out of the Great Depression and preparing them for their growth in military and economic and political power that they experienced in subsequent years. Don't be afraid. My prayer today for all of us is that we will allow God's hope and God's love to keep us going during these difficult days, to not allow fear to paralyze us, and that we will have the confidence to witness to our faith whatever way we can, that we never allow fear of what other people might think about us or fear of the consequences of what we say or do to stop us from living the life of love the Lord asks of us and witnessing to the good news. What would you do if you weren't afraid?